So in this video, we're going to talk about how the recession in not only Australia, but the entire world is going to impact Australian property investment and how you can make some money out of this opportunity. And of course, it's not looking good, with the worst case scenario putting the property market to collectively fall a whopping 43.5% in the next year, in the worst case scenario. But it wasn't always like this. Australian real estate has been very popular globally as a safe and profitable investment. As you can see, over the last 25 years, the Australian property market has grown a whopping 412%, which clocks in yearly gains of about 7% per year. In fact, it is so attractive that it brings so much investments from overseas, with the US and UK leading the market collectively, owning almost $2 trillion worth of the real estate in Australia. And if you thought China was the top country who owns all of Australian real estate, well, think again. They're under Luxembourg. So what then is the problem? The problem is that you are not subscribed to this channel and you haven't smashed that like button. So go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can take control of your finances and use the bear market to become richer than ever before. So now that you've done that, what is then the real problem for the Australian real estate market? Well, in Australia, we have a pretty bad inflation problem. Inflation right now is sitting at 7.3%, which is the highest it has been since 1990. The way this happened is because of two reasons. Number one, when the pandemic came, we started to print money so that people would have money to spend. In fact, we went into a brief period of deflation in 2020 due to everything basically shutting down and people locked up in isolation. And to combat this issue, people were given free money to then go out and spend it, and this worked well for a while because it quickly brought the Australian economy from deflating to inflating to a reasonably healthy level. Now, this policy was not too different from what the United States did to reboot their economy from a global shutdown, but alongside this reboot, all the businesses around the world who were shut down because of the pandemic needed time to start back up again. This is where logistics and shipping suffered serious bottleneck. I mean, you order something from Amazon, you order something from eBay, and it will take ages to come, which then this all leads to what's called a supply shock and logistic issues. And this is how the inflation that we're suffering from right now began. This supply shock then led to increased manufacturing and transportation costs, which then increased the prices at the retail level, and then it costs us all more money to live and purchase basic items. And to make matters much worse, all the money that was handed out meant that Aussies had more money than ever before to spend it, so demand was rising significantly on all consumer markets, like cars, like houses, like daily items, like literally everything. So when supply drops and demand rises, the prices have to go up. There is really nothing out of the ordinary, as this is a previously observed phenomenon in the economy, and the way it is playing out is like clockwork. And the second reason why we're in a time of high inflation is because of the supply shock in energy because of the unexpected war in Ukraine. The supply of widely used commodities like petrol can have a massive impact across a national economy. When energy costs go up, then once again the prices of goods have to reflect it to justify the production or procurement costs of goods and services. And so Australia, much like every other country, is fighting this inflation the only way we know how, and that is by increasing interest rates. So this is basically how a country fights inflation. They increase what's called the overnight cash rate. The overnight cash rate is a rate at which banks lend and borrow money from each other overnight to meet the demands of withdrawals and loans they give out to depositors and other people who need the money from the bank. Now, if you increase this rate, then what you're going to get is increased rates for various loan products at the retail level in the bank, such as business loans and the very dreaded home loans. And so we are seeing the effect of it now. The Reserve Bank of Australia has been hiking interest rates even today. And as you can immediately see, 2-year home loans are sitting at 5.57% and 5-year home loans are sitting now at 6.3%. And compared to when the cash rate was almost zero and when the lowest home loan rate we saw was 2.2%, the interest rate has hiked almost threefold, which means for a 30-year loan for $500,000 at 2.2%, it'll cost you $1,899 per month, with $183,462 in interest paid over the course of the loan. And on a 30-year loan of $500,000 at 6.3%, it'll cost you almost double the monthly repayments at $3,095, with $614,152 in the interest paid over the course of the loan. And unlike the United States, where you can lock in your interest rates for 30 years, most Australian home loans are locked in for only 2 to 4 years, which means even the lucky ones who fixed the rates when the home loans were only at 2.2% will in the near future have to be put in the higher interest rate brackets. And what's really worrying is that with most of the loans in Australia at variable rates, it's likely that our economy will be most quickly hit by the interest rates on the real estate markets. So it's not so surprising to see that currently there are almost 1 million homes out of about 6 million mortgages in Australia who is hit with what's called mortgage stress. With the repayments on home loans almost doubling in the past months without any income increases here in Australia, mortgage stress is a real issue we're going to face. And we are paying record amounts in home loan repayments as we see more than 40% of our paychecks walk out the door to pay the banks. And this level has been the highest since the mid-70s. And unfortunately, it'll be only a matter of time that these properties become distressed and increase the supply in the market. So now you should understand how the chain reaction works. You need to pay attention to the inflation data, RBA's rate hikes or reduction, and research the right markets in Australia to be able to capitalize on this opportunity. And as for the 43.5% reduction for the next year, this is the worst possible scenario when the rates will have to increase as we lose control on inflation. See, the thing is, nobody knows how much the rate will hike to, and it is never too late to be keeping an eye on the interest rate hikes and cuts to time your real estate investment. So how then can you make money out of this situation? First, there's going to be more available in the property market. Take your time with purchasing decisions and make sure you look at the numbers before you jump into a contract. There will be more options becoming available for you in the near future. So unless you really like the property, I wouldn't be so desperate to buy anything right this moment. Second, budget before you buy. Before you say yay to the amount you can borrow, also think about what that means for how much to pay in repayments every month. How does that expense fit in with your lifestyle, and is it manageable? Well, the chances are the bank probably approved your loan because it thinks that you can manage it. So it shouldn't be too bad, as Australian banks don't often take a massive risk on its borrowers, but ask yourself the question, how can you handle that amount of money leaving your bank account every month? And speaking of cash flow, if you're buying an investment property, think also about how much income you will have left with your investment. Is the yield rate enough, or should you buy the property cheaper to justify your interest rate and also the cash flow return? Third, make sure you save up. Have a rainy day fund. Chances are, with the economic condition heading where it is heading, it isn't just about snagging the cheap properties, but you might be in a position where you aren't making as much money as you did before, or God forbid, you lose your job. Make sure you have at least 3 to 6 months in savings in your account. Fourth, research. Keep your eyes peeled for good deals and keep up to date with all the latest data on inflation, interest rates, and local property data. Now is important, more than ever, to stay in the know. Learn about different investment strategies such as the BRRR method. If you don't know what BRRR method is, then leave it in the comments and I'll make a video on this. And lastly, like, share, and subscribe.